And you kind of had an idea, but they still have a big chip.
Welcome, everybody. This is the
Chip on the shoulder.
regular stated meeting for the Yarmouth Conservation Commission. Today's date is Thursday, June 6, 2024. This is to formally advise that is required by general law, chapters 38, sections 18 through 25, and pursuant to chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16, 2021, as extended by chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. The Yarmouth Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting at the date and time noted above. The public is welcome to attend either in person or via the alternative public access provided on the notice of meeting available on the Town of Yarmouth website. Again, this is the meeting for the Yarmouth Conservation Commission, June 6th, 2024. Our first order of business is a request for determination of applicability. Wayne and Teresa Edwards, 91 Pine Cove Drive. It's a proposed construction of a 36 by 6.5 foot porch on an existing house within land subject to coastal storm flowage. Is there anybody representing? Good afternoon, gentlemen. If you would just state your name for the record and then briefly describe what you'd like to do, and then we'll turn it over to the commission to see if they have any questions.
I'm Wayne Edwards, the owner of 91 Pinecone, and we want to construct a 36 by 6.5 foot porch, farmer's porch, onto the house.
Okay. Pretty straightforward. Got questions from the board?
Straightforward. No.
Okay. Finn? Anybody in the audience? Anybody on Zoom have a question or comment on 91 Pine Cove Drive? If not, unless there's further discussion among the board, could I have a motion to issue a negative 2?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. So for you, a negative determination is actually a positive thing for you. It means that you don't have to do any further filing with the Conservation Commission. So you can go ahead with the rest of permitting and check back probably mid to late next week. And you can have, you'll have the determination available for you to come in and pick up. Okay?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too.
You too. All right, next order of business is a request for an extension. The first one is SE 83-2266 for Mark and Darlene Stover, 172 Blue Rock Road. Proposed reconstruction of existing permitted and licensed dock, bulkhead, and access stairs. And this is a first request, and it's a 3-year extension.
Thank you.
We don't share well.
Just give it to them.
Speak for yourself.
I was asked to be here for this extension because the board might have a couple of questions. I will tell you that I went out there yesterday. The pictures that you have were taken yesterday afternoon, and they're available, well, it wasn't those, but there's others. They should be available for the big screen. I took them from up above. So I went out there and I'm like, wow, there's 2 trees are completely in the river, but it's not on the applicant's property. So the purpose of the extension request was to allow the plants that are on the bank that are restoring in their form and trying to make one with nature. We felt we need a little bit more time to make sure that those are properly established before closing out the order. And in addition, we've been monitoring this separately from the board. The erosion on the south side of the bulkhead, we've been monitoring it. The homeowner was a little concerned. So I've gone out there several occasions and I said, well, it hasn't even taken the stone yet. You want me to start over? Okay, thank you. It's blinking, is that that mean anything?
Is it solid green yet?
Now it is. There it goes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, continuing on, so we have been monitoring that condition at the end of the bulkhead. Now, you should know that the end of the bulkhead is about only 2 feet from the property line. And Brittany, I talked to Brittany about it, and she asked me, well, how come there's no soft return on that side? I don't remember exactly, but I think it's because we had to wrap the bulkhead around trees that were on the bank at that portion. So we couldn't, we would have had to remove those trees and grade the slope and everything. So that's probably why, but honestly, I can't remember exactly. But it is what it is. Now, to protect the return from flanking, we had put some smaller stones, 6 inches or less, stuffed in behind the bulkhead. Those are still there. So that means that whatever's going on the other property hasn't gotten bad enough to even come around behind this bulkhead yet. So while there's a significant amount of erosion going on, that is the adjacent lot. It's got nothing to do with this property. It hasn't affected this property enough to do anything about it. Now, 3 years from now, maybe that might not be the case, but that's another good reason for leaving the order open in case we have to address anything on that south end of the return. So other than that, like I said, I had a conversation with Brittany, so we're ahead of the information game here. I was surprised to see that, but it is what it is. Where the bank is not protected, it's going to erode, and where it is protected, it certainly isn't. I think if the bulkhead was doing anything for this, you'd see a lot more erosion on the end, and that's not the case. It's across the whole frontage, and it is what it is.
So you're going to go ahead and continue to monitor, and if need be, we can address soft solution perhaps at a later date.
Yeah, I think it's going to have to come back landward far enough that we have room to do something. So,
Okay. All right.
see.
Mr. Chairman?
Any other questions?
Finn, did you receive the photographs I sent from the water back in 2021?
I did not.
Okay, I sent them to Brittany, but I have a series of photographs of that project from the water, Mr. Chairman, from that period of 2021.
Okay, so you should set,
I sent them to
make sure you,
Brittany, but I'll
okay,
send them again.
just ensure that, just remember, Finn, to ask Brittany to put them into the record.
Will do.
I have a question. How come there was a soft return on the north side, but nothing done on the south side?
That's exactly the question that Brittany asked me. And I said, like I said, I don't remember exactly why, but I do know that there were some trees right at the base of the bank that wanted to be, that they wanted to save, so the bulkhead wrapped around them, just seaward of them. If we had to put a soft solution on that side, we would have had to take those trees out and grade it. So I believe that's the reason, but my memory,
Okay.
I don't know exactly, but it makes sense.
The vegetation on the bank looks really good. It's just those, at those two ends that, and of course, you can't make your neighbors put a bulkhead in either. Thanks.
Yep.
Just talking to myself.
Yeah, and remember, I forget, this project was done, I forget whether this project was done before or after they opened the railroad bridge, but
After.
after?
After, yeah.
Okay, well, and you know, everything there's changed, so there's a lot more water coming in and out.
Okay, unless there's any further questions, then do I have a motion to, a motion to issue an extension for 3 years?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman.
Really astounding.
Not for an extension, you don't need it.
Okay.
All right, Mark, are you hanging around for the other one?
Yeah.
That's the only thing you're here for tonight, right? Okay,
Yep.
so I'll take that out of order then.
Oh, thank you.
Another extension request for SE 83-2264, Mark and Heidi Ingerman, 14 Cape Isle Drive. It's proposed reconstruction of existing permitted and licensed bulkhead. It's another 3-year extension request and another, it's the first first request.
Yep.
Anything, we don't have anything to issue with this, right?
Okay.
We have no issue with this one, right?
Well,
Or do we?
There was one, it's in the process of being cleared up. It's kind of separate from this. So,
Oh, that's,
I didn't-
it's a floats.
yeah, I didn't actually submit this extension request. The applicant had asked me about it and emailed back and forth to Brittany, and then he submitted the request.
Ah, okay.
Having said that, Brittany had emailed me and said, you might want to be here because they have a couple of questions. So I asked her why. We had a conversation before this. So yes, there's 2 floats that are there that aren't supposed to be there. And after a reasonable conversation with the applicant, I'm like, he's like, well, can I leave them there for the summer? I'm like, no, they got to go, and they got to go now. And I said, you bet, what I suggested, and he did, he has contacted Lemco to come and take the floats next week. So that will be a non-issue, and then we'll go back to permit whatever he wants to permit there. But the initial request for the extension was for the bulkhead because it's expensive, and they need more time to whatever, so.
I guess it's the mitigation they were waiting on, or something like that. Mitigation they were waiting on? No?
I don't remember what's on the plan for mitigation. For him, it was a cost thing. He just needed more time because of prices going up and all of that to be able to
It's the mitigation.
do the expense of the bulkhead.
Because the bulkhead looks like it's pretty well complete. It's just that
What?
on Cape, am I in the right one?
You're not. This one is a bulkhead replacement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it looked good, new.
it's a bulkhead replacement.
Okay, all right.
The bulkhead there.
I'm thinking Kearsarge. Oh, yeah, that's Cape Isle. It looks
Yeah.
pretty complete.
Yeah, this
Except for the
is,
mitigation.
No, that's not reconstructed. Those are still timber. It's supposed to be
what's
vinyl.
proposed reconstruction of existing permitted and licensed bulkhead.
Well, it looks in pretty good shape.
Well, yeah, but, so when you look at those, you have to look at the mud line. So above the,
They're at high tide.
above the water looks okay, below the mud line, and the gravel, he has to put gravel there each year because of sinkholes.
Yeah, okay.
So it's
Yeah, we were
in-
there at high tide. I stand
Yeah, we
corrected.
were.
It's in the process, but it's not a mousetrap yet.
Okay.
Okay, and we are going back to the 80 square feet of floats, is that correct?
Yeah, he's permitted and licensed for a 6x20, which is there, that's the wooden one. It's
No.
the 2 5x20s that are beyond it that were added. That
No,
need
he
to-
was
that need to go.
licensed,
6x20, I looked at it yesterday.
according to my notes, it was approved for 2 4x10-foot floats.
That's the ones we're telling them to take out.
On my plan?
No, the other ones are 5 by 10.
Maybe they didn't do that
See,
yet.
I see what, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
ramp with 4 by 10 floats, and there's 3 floats there, and I think the other ones are like 5 by 20.
Does anybody else have the plan? So I'm guessing if, again, my memory fails me, if we permitted 2 other floats there,
4 by 10.
4 by 10s, he's licensed for 6 by 20, that's what I looked at yesterday. But they would have 3 years to make any changes in the floats, so I don't know.
This is,
There's one from like 1985.
that's the one I'm looking for. Great,
That's the original.
okay.
What?
He's looking for the older plan.
I'm looking for the older
It's the
plan.
original floats permitted. That one has 2 4x10s.
This is the one from 550, is that correct?
Yeah, you can see it on the bottom. 2 4x10.
Yeah, this is the original permitting for the pier and the floats, or the floats, I should say.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
A 20-foot float, yeah. And then how wide?
4.
It's 4 by 10. 2 4 by 10.
Oh, that's funny, it's licensed for 6 by 20, which that would be 4 by 20. Who would do that?
Well,
I can, I don't know if I have that.
Arnie Ojala did it back in 1984. So that's what, it's got to go back to the 80 square feet. That's what they were permitted for.
Well, you weren't.
And then if you want to, you can go, you can make an application for an increase to 200 square feet.
Are you racing my desk?
Let me look into that. That's the only plan you have for the permitting? Because how would it have got licensed? Because the license and has a public notice that goes back to the Conservation Commission, they would look at the plan. 'Cause I think,
I can say, that's what we have in the file.
yeah, I
so-
think there's a piece missing somewhere, but that 6 by 20 has been out there forever, I think. All right, let me look into that some more. Because it'd be good if he just kept the one that's been there, and then if he wants more, I told him we have to go permit.
Yeah, he's permitted for 80 square feet right now. If you want to go to 200, you can make that application. But again, I will always point out that that's not a guarantee.
Oh, we know that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, the important thing at this point was to take the 2 extra ones that are there get them out of the water, and then we'll deal with the rest of this. So let me look into that part, but we'll fix it however we do that.
Okay. All right, if there's any further discussion, would somebody like to make a motion to issue an extension for 3 years?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, sorry, did I say? Did you
Okay.
abstain? Oh, you said okay, okay.
Okay.
All right, there you go.
Okay,
All right,
thank you very much.
Not both. I have a
I
tendency.
think okay throws them off.
Here you go, sir. I was trying to get 2 votes and rest of them.
Vote early, vote often, is that what you're doing?
all right, next order of business is another extension request for SE 83-2252. Let's see, this is Stephen and Christine Arden, 65 Winter Street, proposed construction of a 3-bedroom dwelling with 2-car garage within buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. Is being amended to propose a swimming pool, and a 6-month extension is being requested. This is the first time for that
6
as
month?
well. 6 month. Just, I think they just need to get a few minor things taken care of. Oh, in terms of the, I think it's a planting maybe? Is anybody here for it? Would somebody like to make a motion to extend for 6 months?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
I,
Opposed?
That's what I asked.
Carries unanimously.
It's usually 3 years.
6 months seems more than we usually have. Longer period than we normally.
Did 2 for 3 years.
That's true. Great point.
All right, next order of business, another extension request for SE 83-2125. Robert and Mariana Giglio, 44 Mattochi, proposed to raise and replace of a single-family dwelling with fill and pervious driveway and septic and flood zones. This is also a 6-month extension request. Anybody for this one? This is also a first extension. Would somebody like to make a motion to extend for 6 months?
So moved.
second.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. All right, next order of business is a continued notice of intent. This is SE 83-2437. Margaret Awad, 911 Great Island Road, the proposed sediment replenishment within a coastal beach, coastal dune, and land subject to coastal storm flowage. We were awaiting natural heritage endangered species comment, and it looks like we got that. There seems like a young gentleman over there who'd like to, would you like to at least take a seat and make it formal?
Yes, thanks. Bob Perry, Cape Cod Engineering, and we are representing the AWADS, 911 Great Island Road. Good evening. And yes, you're correct, Mr. Chairman. We were waiting for NHESP to come through with their comment letter. They did so, and there are the typical restrictions for areas where there's a viable habitat, and you can bake those into that order of conditions. No objection.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Relates to natural heritage? No? All right, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the project with special conditions and including the natural heritage and endangered species conditions as well? Thank you, Jack. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chairman votes nay.
I'm abstaining.
Pat and Rick.
I'm
Abstaining.
Oh, Pat is abstaining. I'm sorry. Thank you, Pat. So let the record reflect, Commissioner Mulhern abstained.
Yeah, Bishop and Mulhern.
Yeah, but I was here before, on these presentations.
Oh, and Rick, you weren't here for
This is
that
the
either,
last
right?
one.
When were they most recently here? Just 2 weeks ago?
It was last
2 weeks
week.
ago.
Okay, then I was not here
Right.
for that.
You were 2 weeks ago, right?
I recall it was on that order, yes.
Yeah, no, I think you missed it. So
Missed it.
you're recusing yourself as well then?
Unfortunately, yes.
I think we have a quorum still.
We still
Did I
have
get
a quorum.
Did I get an aye from the chairman, or was it?
You got a nay from the chairman, but that's okay. You still pass, so you're good. The chairman's just not signing, that's all.
Trust.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Bob.
Yep,
pleasure, Bob.
just squeak that out.
I don't sign this.
You didn't sign that, right?
I did not.
Okay,
We did not.
just checking. All right, next order of business
Jim's big,
is
that thing.
another continued notice of intent for SE 83-2430. This is Anthony Fiola, 1 Malva Road, proposed raise and replace of dwelling and septic within the velocity zone and the buffer zones to a coastal bank and coastal beach.
Andrew in there.
We did take testimony on this, right? Last time,
I wasn't here for this one either.
so Rick has to,
Yeah, I wasn't here for this one.
Yeah,
we're not here for, okay, so you'll have to recuse yourself, and Pat, you were good.
I was here.
Okay.
Zero for this one.
All right, so let the record reflect that Commissioner Bishop has recused himself and everybody else is voting.
Good evening, Craig Ferrari with Down Cape Engineering, here representing Anthony Fiola. So last time I was here, roughly a month ago, we had some comments in response to the size and building coverage of this proposed structure. So this is a raise and replace in a velocity zone with a new septic system. In response to those comments, we have reduced the building coverage down below what is existing with the house and garage combined into one new structure here. And as a result of that, we are reducing the net hardscape on this site. So it's a net reduction of 11 square feet. We're still proposing some mitigation plantings with some American beach grass just to help alleviate some of the flooding issues around the side of the bulkhead wall that was recently constructed. So this whole building has been pulled about 5.5 feet further away from Lewis Bay here. So that's the deck and the ocean side face of this structure. And then in addition to that, the deck on the ocean side here has been reduced in width. The other change I'd like to highlight for the board is that I've, in response to some abutters' concerns, moved the septic retaining wall an additional 6 inches away from the abutting garage on the north side just to provide them with at least 2 feet to be able to walk around that garage and maintain that structure. So happy to hear any comments or questions.
I think I just have two of the same copy.
All right, questions from the board?
This is the new one?
It was recommended that some of the mitigation planting be started because nothing has been done so far before, starting the work.
Yeah, so the beach rose plantings for the retaining wall, which is a separate SE number, are certainly planned here. But he hasn't started on those yet, partially just because, we're a little worried that some of this construction disturbance might impact those plantings. But I can certainly advise him to put those plants in as soon as possible.
Well, it had been noted that it was more than just that beach grass. There was some beach grass removal on the side of the road where the right-of-way is, and that was cleared last year and was supposed to be replanted, and that still hasn't been done either.
It was my understanding that issue was resolved with the Ragusa Rose cutting. I believe that he was planning on just letting that revegetate there. I don't think there were any specific plantings, but that's just my recollection.
Well, both those things were brought up by the agent.
I don't remember.
They were noted. It's supposed to be done. So, I think she'd like to see those.
I agree, Pat. I think you should put the mitigation area in. It's off to the side from the rest of the construction. I'm also looking at the septic system, so this is it's a tight tank, right? Is that what you're doing?
So it's a septic tank and pump chamber combination that's pumping up to a traditional leaching field. So I believe before it was only 5 feet off of the property line. I moved it 5.5 feet and subsequently moved the surrounding retaining wall just to give that garage on the north side a little bit of space. Didn't materially impact the separation distance from the coastal bank or anything else there. So I felt we could give them a little more space on the north side there. And we also removed a stairway on that side, which gave me a little more flexibility in locating that.
Like the buzz?
So we reduced the decks and we put a stairway that was proposed outside of the building to within the building footprint to further reduce that building coverage.
Mr. Chairman, I still have an issue with this septic tank being in the VE zone along with the wall there. I think we should look more at a tight tank in that location. His justification was they didn't want the big truck going down there, but big trucks are going to be there for the construction, and garbage trucks go down there. I think that's a pretty poor excuse of not putting in a tight tank.
My only issue with that is like if you do a tight tank, now you're going to be looking at a walled.
Reflective issues.
There will be a wall all the way around, and this is all velocity.
Yeah, it's not recommended to have a tight tank within a velocity zone. It's a much better treatment of the effluent to separate out that wastewater and then to infiltrate it. We're maintaining 4-foot separation to groundwater. It is a raised retaining wall, but it's only about 2 to 3 foot of a retaining wall, so it's nothing too high and substantial that's going to be constructed there.
See, I mean, I still have a problem with that too. I mean, I agree
Recommended to have a
with you.
septic system and a 3-foot wall in the velocity zone either, so, you know,
Is there a way you can you just mound it? Can you do like a simple mounded area around that? Instead of having the wall, you would have like a
That would be
more
additional
gradually.
fill in a V zone, and it's a very small site, so it would be difficult to be able to slope those sides. I'd be worried about any erosion off of that. I think the wall would better contain it and be a smaller footprint with less fill in the velocity zone.
I don't.
We're concerned about reflection of energy, you know, that's the real, in a velocity zone, there's no question about that. You know, and that's the issue for all of us, I think.
Yeah, I don't think any of this is ideal, but
Well, I mean,
having
there's
vertical
an existing house there,
walls.
the wall's behind the pilings of the house, so I don't, frankly, I don't see how that is gonna be substantially impacting the wave action that's coming into this site. I mean, it's pretty well protected behind the footprint of these house and.
well, it would
and
be
even
very
though
nice if it would
open
have
piles-
if you would have a nice, if the storms and everything would come directly from the south, then I guess I wouldn't have an issue with that, but I
That's where
don't.
the wave action is coming from, that would, coming off of the water there. I've tried to condense this down into as tight of a footprint and keep all the structures packaged together to minimize that type of issue.
I personally, I think you're still gonna be seeing a lot of deflected, wave action off of that wall. That's my big concern with this.
Ed, I don't want to prolong this, but I'd like to find out what what's happening with innovative septic systems in this kind of location. I presume that's way too small for any kind of, or that's not even being considered any yet for this. And essentially, are we going to allow this kind of thing in the future, not take the house out? So I'm looking at just a few seconds to filling in on what's status of these innovative septic systems for this kind of site.
Well, so I mean, we're right on Lewis Bay here, which flushes into the Nantucket Sound, so there's not too many issues in that area that an innovative septic would fix. I mean, ideally, sewer is gonna come into this neighborhood and resolve these issues. I don't think there's a very short timetable for that, but hopefully, in 15, 20 years, there'll be sewer coming to this, and we'll be removing that septic retaining wall and connecting to the town sewer. So that would be the ultimate goal, but we kind of have to wait for the town sewer plans to be able to do that.
I just want to, what is the property fence? What are you thinking?
Just a split rail fence,
Okay,
just
fine.
to demarcate the property.
Okay, that's good.
Again, I'm not quite so sure that you've convinced me that you can't do something else with the septic or design something different with this.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's just a low-lying site, so I'm not particularly comfortable reducing the separation of groundwater less than the 4 feet. We're already asking for a variance from the Board of Health for that. That's, typically the minimum separation. I mean, we could look at reducing it further, but you'd still have, a 1.5 foot to 2 foot
How many variances
wall.
are you asking for the Conservation Commission to give?
So I don't believe we're asking the conservation for any variances, but we do have variances from the Board of Health.
I'm not sure. I don't think we normally would allow this kind of construction in a velocity zone. We certainly don't usually allow solid walls in the velocity zone.
Well, usually there's an exception for septic systems,
I don't know.
because it's just
Can
an
you point
upgrade.
that
I
out?
mean, we're trying to improve the cesspools that are currently sitting within the groundwater table there. You know, it's my opinion that this proposed septic is a vast improvement over what's existing at the site.
Well, it's a Title V septic system, right?
Yes.
So how is that a vast improvement? You're not removing any more nitrogen using this system than you are with a cesspool.
Well, but we're pulling it out of that water table that it's existing in. And just treating, so the sand filter there that it's going through is treating those pathogens and effluent.
Not the nitrogen, though.
Well, but nitrogen's not a concern in an open water body.
Really?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's really news to me.
It's a major concern in an estuary, but in the ocean, there's so much water there that the nitrogen is not a particular limiting concern in an open tidal bay like that.
Disagree with you completely on that, because
I-
the nitrogen levels are very, very high in Lewis Bay.
And Lewis Bay is an estuary.
And it's-
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I do,
I think that would be a better conversation for the Board of Health.
well, you're having a conversation with the conservation right now, and I don't think that most of us are agreeing with your assessment.
Could we wait until the Board of Health, or
No,
we have to go first?
yes.
You know, and we don't have to go first.
No.
I think you should, personally, I think you should at least consider something else, a better design, do something different with it. I mean, and if you don't want to do that, I mean, that's your right as well.
Eliminating the vertical walls, to me, is a very important first step.
Yeah, I mean, I can look at options, but I don't frankly see a ton of ways to alleviate that. And I frankly don't think that a 2 to 3 foot wall is gonna have a substantial impact, considering all the other structures in this neighborhood and the fact that it's behind the house there.
I mean, I guess my question is, where do we drive? It's like, you know, people come to us all the time with this sort of stuff. It's like, oh, well, if this little project isn't going to make a difference, but there is such a thing as cumulative effect, cumulative impact. Is that right?
I mean, I understand your concerns there. You know, I think taking the two existing structures that would absolutely channel those velocity floodwaters and combining it into one structure with a condensed footprint that is on open piles is improving the conditions at the site. And I think that's the general standard, is to make things better. You know, I'm trying to make things vastly better than what's currently there, and open up more natural space at grade, and take those structures out of the flood zone and comply with current building standards.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How many bedrooms is proposed for this house?
3 bedrooms.
Is that the smallest tank you can put in there for the 3 bedrooms? Would they be willing to go to 2 bedrooms and put a smaller tank in?
That is the smallest tank that would be available, no matter how many bedrooms you have. It's recommended for that size, and it's gonna be, you know, the tank is gonna be below grade. And, you know, we've done the calculations to make sure that it's not gonna float in the event of a flood.
Wondering if you could downsize it a little, but obviously they don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, we could potentially reduce, you know, we could ask for a reduction in the size of the leaching field and make the wall, you know, up to 25% smaller, would be something that potentially the Board of Health could grant. Would shrink the footprint a little bit, but it's not gonna materially alter the proposal that's before you here. You know, 25% would shrink it a few feet.
And why exactly does a tight tank not work here?
It's not that it doesn't work, it's that, I think this septic system is vastly superior to having put the burden of periodically pumping a tight tank onto this owner.
Mr. Chairman?
There's an existing septic
I'm
there.
really sorry about that, but
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that you I think rightly indicated is that in a few years, there's probably going to be a hookup to a town sewer system. So given that question about a tight tank, the tight tank won't be forever. And so to say there's going to be an inconvenience for the owner is almost by your definition only going to be a temporary situation until one day you do hook up. And it sounds like you can go forward with your project if something like a tight tank is considered. Because otherwise, I'm not sure the things are here for me anyway, to say, yeah, this is a project that I would vote for.
If that is how the board feels, then I can
That's how I
certainly
feel.
explore that option.
That's how I feel. Okay.
It sounds like you guys would much prefer a tight tank to this septic system, so I can certainly see if my client would be amenable to that.
is this a summer house?
It's not seasonally restricted, but it is used typically as a summer house.
Again, I mean, that just makes it even more of a reason. I mean, you use a tight tank. How much nitrogen goes into the system then? Into the greater system? 0, right?
Do we delay or?
Well, I mean, it's up to you. I mean, if that's something you want to consider, then I would suggest that you would seek a continuance for that. I mean, it's entirely up to you, but I think I think you've gotten a feel for what the board is considering.
Yeah, so I would absolutely be open to that option to continue and look at the option of a tight tank and see if we can move forward with that path.
Okay. Before we go any further, is there anybody in the audience who has, sorry, Finn, any further questions among the board? Finn, anything else to?
I just wanted to add that the driveway where it's currently proposed would clear out vegetation. That was already a violation from last year where vegetation was cleared. That'd be pushed further north.
I can look at that option. I mean, it's going to be tough to get in and out of this area already. It's tough to get in and out of this site. I'll certainly make a note of that.
Well, can he mitigate that somewhere else, add more mitigation for that? For that,
Yeah, and
Stuff
that's kind of the final point. Before any more work is done, the mitigation plantings should be inspected by the CA and confirmed, just because she hasn't seen those yet.
That's just to clarify the beach rose
The original
plantings
beach
for the
road, yeah.
wall.
yeah.
Yep.
The area that was disturbed for the right-of-way, along the right-of-way.
Yeah, I mean, if you can't figure out any other way for the drive, then I would say, yeah, you would have to, you should be looking to do further mitigation for that then.
Yeah, so right now we're reducing hardscape and we are still proposing 280 square feet of additional
Yeah,
mitigation.
I'm sorry, I
so-
didn't look at the calculations at all before I asked
Yeah,
that, but
that's okay.
just
So-
make sure
So that would
that's,
be, a roughly comparable area of, probably 1.5 or 2 to 1 to the vegetation that's being removed for the driveway. But I can certainly,
so just check your
I'll
calculations
check those numbers
to make sure
and
they
add
even
them to the
out.
plan.
All right, anybody in the audience have any comments, questions? If you'd like to step up to the podium, state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Christopher Senni. I'm an attorney. I live in Brewster, and I represent an abutting property owner, Kathy and Victor Centopani, who live at 5 Malfa. That is the property that has the garage that is very close to the property line. I did reach out to Down Cape Engineering today. I was just recently retained in this matter, but I called Dan, who I know, and then Dan directed me to Craig, and Craig spoke with me today. I expressed to Craig that my clients would like to have a conversation with the owners about some concerns that we have. I do have concerns, but you've already expressed most of what I wanted to say tonight. We are concerned about the septic design with the walls, and you've already mentioned perhaps a mounded system or a tight tank, and we have the same concerns you do. As was mentioned, there's a lot of energy coming in here. The water comes over that small seawall quite regularly and comes around it because it doesn't cover the full width of the property. And so we'd like to work with the applicant. We know that there are some improvements here. It is an improvement to pull the house up and get it out of the worst flooding condition. But we have some concerns also. What Finn mentioned, the vegetation that was removed is partly now, where it had been removed, will partly be the apron for the new driveway. And I did go back and look at the solution your commission came up with in 2023 after the enforcement action, and you ruled that it was okay not to replant, but you wanted it to grow naturally. And now a good distance of what was to regrow naturally will become the apron to the driveway. I understand there might be compensation elsewhere, but that was a concern. My clients would frankly rather have the driveway where it's practically been, which is along the property line, and not have the septic there. I know that you're balancing, and the Board of Health will balance, getting the septic further from the water. So we understand this. We appreciate the gesture of moving it back a little bit. We appreciate that. We'd like to talk to your clients about how to work this area where we might have access just for maintenance, just to be able to change the shingles on the garage. But I don't want to take up more of your time. I do hope the matter's continued. I will come back, and my clients would like to meet with the applicant between now and then and work through some of the issues that we have. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, my name is Cindy Van Dorn. I live at 4 Malfa Road, which is just directly across from the 1 Malfa property. At the last meeting we had, I brought up my concern about the driveway. And I see where it is, and there's absolutely no backup area out of the driveway because you have that big board that is at the end of Malfa Road, and then the beach starts. So the driveway is just right there. There's no curb backup area in there. And I was just concerned about where the placement of the driveway is now, at least from what I see on the stakes. It kind of seems like it's halfway into the old garage, which is just right adjoining that area that, had been a problem with the Rosa Rugosas. But there's no backup area because there's a big guardrail right there. So I don't know how they, unless they had a turnaround in their property, that would have to, then that could be solved, that they would only be coming straight out because there's no way to back unless they came into my property and then went into Malfa Road. So that was my only concern. And it is true during storms, I've had to have so much beach work done on my place and the soft wall. And that hard wall has just created a big problem for us on that side all the way down. It's just stone now. So if something could be, put up against that wall, some sand and plantings, I think it would help out because I've invested a lot of money into my property, and it continues because when we have storms, the water comes all the way up, surrounds his whole house, and that wall is just like a swimming pool. So there's a lot of water that does come up there, and so your concerns about the septic are are good concerns. It just is unfortunate they lost so much land, it has so much land before they did something with the wall that is just really hard now. But anyhow, those were my concerns, and I hope the best for them to be able to do something, but I want it to be, helpful for our whole community as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, anybody on Zoom have any comments, questions? Raise your hand digitally, please. I see none. Is there any further discussion among the board? All right, Craig, how much time do you need?
I think 2 weeks would be sufficient.
Okay, we are, let's see, what's the date today? The 20th, right? And so June 20th? All right, so would somebody like to make a motion to continue to June 20th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
You can't vote.
You can't vote.
Second.
I can vote on the extension, I mean,
No, you can't vote on this. You didn't hear the first part and you didn't mull an eyes, so.
okay.
Sorry, didn't mean to ruin your day. Would somebody else like to make? Somebody else like to
second.
second?
It's already
it?
been seconded.
That was Ellie.
I firsted and she seconded it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimous. So we'll see you on June 20th.
I'll be able to vote on that one.
You can, yeah, you mull it as you say.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can now. I think once you can miss one, but you can't miss two.
What is this?
This is
What are
60
we on to
Grandview.
next?
See, when,
What are we on?
This is,
60 Grandview.
all right, next order of business is a new notice of intent for SE 83-2436, Donna Martell, 60 Grandview Avenue. A proposed addition including a second-story garage, patio, and pool within land subject to coastal storm flowage, the riverfront area, and buffer zones to coastal beach and coastal bank. And you are not Roy. Are you the homeowner?
Yes, we are. So I'm Aldo Rosito, and my wife Sylvia, and Sam, my son. And we're here to propose changes to our plan at 60 Grandview. Right now, it's just an older house that's on major disrepair. We're planning on putting on a second floor, redoing the original house, and adding some hardscape and a pool to the backyard, as well as a 20 by 6 foot addition to the garage, a area for a covered porch in the front. And, and then we're also planning on removing, I guess there's a lot of invasive plants there. We had Brittany out, and she had a look at it, and we're gonna plan on removing all the trees and replanting these new Rose of Virginia and sweet ferns. Oh, and I should mention, we have our engineer, Roy Ogarowski from WRS Engineering. I think he's on Zoom. So if you have any technical questions, he'll be able to help us.
See,
we've already told them that once.
The only problem here is with this is that we usually require representation to be present here in the hearing room when we're doing things like this, but I know we've told them that more than once, so.
Hopefully I should be able to answer most of the questions. It is mainly like all of our ideas.
Yeah,
to 10?
Yeah, 1 to 10.
20.
1 to 10.
All right, questions from the board?
Well, a simple one, what's the driveway material going to be?
Oh, there's an existing asphalt driveway, and it's going to remain.
Where's your work limit line?
Where's the 100?
Oh.
Okay, there, it's just marked differently. 50. Yeah, I got it, the 50s here, so.
Is the shed being rebuilt?
The shed will be rebuilt, yes,
Okay,
repaired.
so if that's the case, then the work limit line has to swing down, so so the work that you're gonna be doing on the shed, is behind the work limit line. So we'll need a new plan for that, a revised plan that shows that.
What's the square footage of the patio stones that you're putting in around the pool, do you know? I didn't see it on the plan here, unless I can't.
Let's see if you wrote it here.
Second story.
The exact
No,
square
I don't see it
footage.
here.
Proposed new pool and hardscape,
The notes.
I think it's 1,500 square feet with the pool. On the plan, it says proposed mitigation, there's like a little area there in the middle. It says proposed new pool and hardscape coverage and 50 to 100 foot buffer zone, 1,500 square feet. Use 2 to 1 and 50 to 100 square, into 100 foot. Total proposed mitigation, 1,500 square feet times 2, which is 3,000 square feet. Is that the piece you're talking about?
Okay, 15, yeah, okay. 100 square feet, wow.
Are you good with that, Ellie?
Yeah, I am. It's a lot of hardscape, but it's outside the 50.
Pat, did you have a question?
I was just worrying or thinking about the mitigation. You said 2 species you were going to put in. They'd like to have at least 3.
Oh,
Thank you, that was my
I could
next-
add more.
Yeah, just a variety of,
Absolutely. I'm open to that. I kind of asked for suggestions, and that's
Yeah.
what I was told, so I went with it. Those are good looking.
Yeah, so regulations require at least 3 species, and we do like to see that that there be some sort of variation in size, in the various sizes, so don't make it all like one gallon pots or plants. You know, try and vary the composition of the mitigation area and the size of the plants and the variety of the plants.
That makes sense. Just-
The other thing with the mitigation planting area, we generally also want to see, what you've done is you've moved the mitigation planting and spread it sort of all around the property.
Barrier.
But what really needs to happen is that you need to fill in, you should be concentrating on filling the 35-foot first. So like all of the planting that you're counting as mitigation planting that's running up the sides beyond the 35-foot should be brought down into the
Okay.
35-foot no disturb zone.
So it's basically 2
you try and
areas.
You try and fill that area first, And then, if you fill it and still have more that you need to do, then you can put that, put that up along the sides and things like that. But as a general rule, we try and fill the 35-foot first, okay? And like I said, so you've got the information on the work, changing the work limit line.
He's talking about
Where's your driveway?
35, that's the 50.
Right.
That's only that.
It's at the top of the,
Your driveway's over there. What is it? Is that paved? Did you
Yeah, it's
say-
paved.
You said it was paved, and you're keeping that the same? Okay. All right. Any other questions from Jack, or David, sorry?
I'd prefer to see that shed moved someplace into the 50-foot buffer. Is that possible?
sure, if you guys want that, yeah. I'm open to it.
I mean, at least, well, so you're doing a complete rebuild of the shed, is that correct? And so I think it would be beneficial if you could move it, at least move it out of the 35-foot, okay?
Maybe onto the right-hand side?
If you look at the plan to the right with there's extra land there, yeah, I was actually thinking of that
Because you've got a porch, you don't want to
on the left.
hurt the view or...
Well, yeah, we won't design it for them, but if you could,
I don't
appreciate the
charge.
input. Whatever.
I don't charge.
So I just have a quick question about the 35-foot that you were
I
talking
think
about.
they could put it easily over here.
Do you think that the mitigation will cover all that 35-foot, or there's still going to
No.
be?
no, but I mean, they only owe so, I mean, there's only so much that they owe, so, but the whole point behind the mitigation planting is to try and completely fill, I mean, ideally, we would like to see a 50-foot undisturbed buffer. In this case, that was not, I mean, you had a completely disturbed 50-foot buffer. What we normally try and do is to see you fill in whatever mitigation planting that you owe.
Put it all on the 35.
We try and, we start filling it in, and we fill it in from the resource area boundary moving landward. So in this case, I don't think you're gonna completely fill the 35-foot, but I think you'll come pretty darn close, so, okay? So, do you understand what we're asking?
I do.
Okay, so we will need to see a revised plan, obviously, and we'd like you to come back with those changes. I think we'll try for the June 20th, if that's okay. If you can't, if for whatever reason, have Roy call or email, let us know that, you're just not going to be able to, we can continue it again.
We only meet once in July. We only.
It would be
July.
it'll be a longer.
If you don't meet the
July 18th, is
if you
that
don't
what
meet the deadline, we're not meeting July 4th, so it would be July 18th.
Okay.
So it's
So
either.
if you can't make to the June 20th, then the next opportunity is
What?
the 18th.
Yeah, I think what you're asking for is simple.
I think so.
Yeah. I think
I think so, but if you run into problems, it's available, okay? Anybody in the audience on this one? Sorry, Finn, did you have anything?
We have someone on Zoom, but I just wanted to add that there was one abutter comment in support of the project.
In support?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, and who was that from, do you know?
It would be in the file.
Well, while he's looking, is our meeting in July the 11th or the 18th? 18th. That's what I thought.
You'll have one on the 4th.
Right.
Why wouldn't we meet it on the 11th, the first Thursday of the month available?
That's, available?
Because that's what Brittany put down was the 18th. We're only having one July meeting.
So let the record reflect, there was an abutter comment. It was a positive. They supported the project, and this is coming from the Harbor Haven Association Board of Directors, and signed by Zachary Barber. Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions on this one? Anybody on Zoom, raise your hand digitally.
Is that one at the top?
Yeah.
Just a
That's Roy
microphone, I think.
Okarowski. That's the
Hand
engineer.
came up.
That's him.
Hi, Roy? Roy? And this is pretty much the reason
why we
why
don't-
we
yeah.
asked the engineers to come in to us.
Can't hear you, Roy.
Roy?
Maybe his volume is turned down in the back?
I think he knows what he's doing.
Because I can barely hear, I think I can hear him yelling hello.
Or anything.
Hold on, Roy.
We're muted.
What time is it?
Was it that race?
It's gonna be another hour.
First, pretty good lead.
Your supper before you come. I had some early supper.
John, in the water, under the boat.
6:30 normally.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask
And
a
it was
question?
makes
Yeah,
it
so,
look
hold on for just a second. So it must be a technical problem on Roy's part. It's coming, I mean, everything is through. He's not muted or anything, so, yeah.
So if I don't ask this question, I'm gonna have to listen to my wife the whole ride home. In this area where the shed is, there's a flagpole where we'd like to put our flag. Is it possible, even though we moved the shed, to keep the American flag there?
It's existing, you said? It's already there?
Yeah,
And you want to leave it there?
I'd like to, because it's near the
That's
water.
fine. That's fine, and just to make sure that the engineer puts the flagpole on the plan too. It should be there.
I think she called you on that, didn't she?
No, I came.
All right, Roy, you want to try it again? All right, we are not hearing anything you're saying. It must be an issue on your end. Again,
Down.
this is why we asked the engineers to come in, and we've asked you that many times before. All right, so unless there's further discussion among the board, would somebody like to make a motion to continue the hearing for a revised plan to June 20th?
I do.
Thank you, Jack. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so you're all set. Make sure you contact Roy right away and get him working on on those items. All right.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
You can ask for a roll call on the vote?
Oh, did I ask for a vote? Yeah. No.
No, you just asked
what
for
do
a
you
first
think?
and a
Yes.
second.
Oh, you didn't accept that? Yes, you'll
Those in favor?
in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
It's official.
Thank you.
You're official.
Good idea.
I'd like to give you a hard time.
It's okay.
Robert, is Robert here?
We need to, if you see me making a mistake, somebody needs to speak right up.
Well, that's what we do.
I don't usually have to worry about that.
I haven't been at a meeting where it's been a problem.
I usually do, but I was so excited by moving ahead.
Yes.
Plus, he hit me last time.
All right, our next order of business is another new notice of intent. This is Allison Taubert and Ship Shops, 0 Sailing Village Way. It's proposed reconstruction of boat maintenance building with a 192 square foot expansion within land subject to coastal storm flowage in the riverfront area.
Must be people voting in.
And let the record reflect that
I remember the first time.
Bob Perry has done what he's supposed to do and showed up as a consultant. We appreciate that and following the rules.
I don't want to block anybody's view, so I'm just going to park this here for you.
It's all right, the same thing as this.
Just in case we need to take a measurement, we have a paper plan. So as you know, I'm Bob Perry, I've met you before. I have John Richards, the builder,
Marty Tarbert.
Marty Tarbert, and
Owner.
Allison in the back for Ship Shops. And we're at Sailing Village Way. We provided the notice of intent and the plan for reconstruction of one of the shop buildings. It's a outboard rigging shop, and it's kind of fulfilled its useful life, probably 73, 74 years old. So what's proposed is a replacement in the same footprint with minor expansion. So to tell you where we are, we're in a flood zone, elevation 12. We're in the outer riparian riverfront area, and the building corner is 139 feet from the bulkhead, which places it out of the 100-foot buffer from the real wetland resource, but the riverfront area is a resource area. So the notice of intent addressed the flood zone issues and the riverfront issues with, a summary of how this project works with those interests. So it's quite straightforward. There's about 190 square foot footprint increase. We're bumping out on the north and the south, or I should say the west and the south. We are maintaining the site much like it is. There's one notation on the plan I want to correct for you. I got my wires crossed with Marty, and the access door that's on the south, can't see the north arrow on that plan. So I'd say roughly the southern portion of the building. Crushed stone was noted on the plan, but it's paved today, and it would remain paved. It's just not practical to turn wheels to back trailers into the building on the crushed stone. And I have made the change on a plan that's on the board, and I would certainly want to provide you with a new plan for your file. So we've gone through, in the notice of intent, the flood zone performance standards that the Yarmouth Wetland Bylaw has. DEP doesn't have performance standards for flood zones, but Yarmouth does, so we address those. And there's no significant impact in an adverse way. The impact is really positive because the building will be flood code. It is vented to equalize hydrostatic pressure should that flood ever come. And there's a drainage provision on the building perimeter that does not exist today. So we have 2-foot wide trenches that would be stone-filled to intercept roof runoff until that runoff reaches a point where it might need to flow overland. But the trenches are pretty good sized, and there'll be an infiltration rate coming out of those because they're in sand. The riverfront area was addressed as a redevelopment because there's nothing new proposed. So we're trading degraded area in the form of crushed stone and pavement with degraded area for a slight increase in the building size. All other things remaining constant except for the drainage improvements. And a minor alternatives analysis was submitted that concluded that if we were to look for alternate locations, we'd be doing a much more intense level of work on the site. Part of a commercial project with a notice of intent for DEP is the stormwater management checklist. So that was run through and filled out, and all the 7 interests were addressed. Again, it's a redevelopment project. It's also in a flood zone, and there's a lot of drainage that just it's not practical in a flood zone. But since we're replacing a building with a building, and we're making what are acute localized drainage improvements to handle the roof runoff, there's no change to the drainage patterns on site. So the primary interest I think you want to know about is that Ship Shops has a long-term management plan for all the activities that they do undertake there. It's EPA regulated. I'm sure it would be DEP regulated. but it is ongoing. I know they've gotten good marks for their performance, and there's nothing about this project that's going to change the activities on the site. So, trying to think if I'm leaving anything out. I don't think I am, except to say that it's a concrete foundation as a slab. The plumbing code requires a holding tank for floor drain, which is probably a good thing, except for having to buy it. So environmentally, you could say that's some kind of a benefit. That is also shown on the plan. And so I think it's best we just open it up to your questions.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you.
thanks, Bob. Questions from the board?
Nope.
It's a housekeeping thing, Bob, I'm sorry, we're gonna be looking for a revised plan, and it's gonna be showing the change of, what was it, a door, did you say?
Yeah, I'll show you where, on this, right here, there's an entranceway where there's a bay door now in the building proposal, and that is a driveway. It's currently paved, and it would remain paved.
Okay.
You would need 2 copies for your file?
2 copies, please, yes. And a digital.
Oh, yes.
All right, anybody in the audience have any questions on this one? Anybody on Zoom?
Oh, before I forget, if I might, Mr. Chairman, I did have a letter of support from an abutter. It was sent to me, not to the commission. Can I provide it to Finn?
Was it an email?
It's email.
The email, yeah, you can do that, or you could forward it, yeah, that's fine.
It's a 1-sentence letter from the O'Neills in support, and we think there might be other letters that you've received, but you would know, I wouldn't.
All right, so, as Mr. Perry stated, this is a one-line letter of support from Kathleen and Gregory O'Neill of Pleasant Street. As a butters, Ship Shops Incorporated, we are aware and full support of their proposed project. We'll put that into the, where am I, here's my file here.
Cards coming your way.
Thank you. All right, nobody on Zoom? Any further conversation from the board? Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the project with special conditions and receipt of a, pending receipt of a revised plan?
So moved.
Second.
Second, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Bob.
Nice to see you again.
All right, let's see, our next order of business is a continued certificate of compliance.
Are you going to sign that?
This the first time I was here?
Yeah, you can sign it.
No, I didn't, I just was quiet.
One of these days, I'm going to pick up those folders and I'm going to.
Yeah. I want to see Ed's head explode. Get him in here. Not coming by. Doesn't seem to be.
All right, so our next order of business is a continued certificate of compliance for SE 83-2291, Mary Jo and Howard Safford of 310 South Shore Drive.
Good evening.
Hi,
I'm Mary Jo Safford.
Mary Jo, do you need to say anything, or do you want me to just read what I have as far as notes?
The only thing I've received, I wasn't able to get to the site in the beginning of the week with Brittany, because she reviewed the site with Tyler Godrow.
Okay.
And she sent an email to me, and I don't know if if you folks received that email.
So it was basically with the special conditions for the follow-up management of invasive species by a licensed pesticide applicator, yes, and
That's what I have.
one full flat of native
That's what I have.
plug beach grass consistent with the original planting.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
That's what you agree, okay.
Yep. Yep, I've received that. And it's been a long process, a 3-year, very long process. And we no longer have the availability of Mike Talbot. He's really quite ill now.
Yeah.
And so his, a previous associate, I believe, that worked with him, Tyler
Goodrow, yep.
is kind of stepped in to finish this with me. And the plan was really lovely. 3 years I worked on it, and there was on paper, I was to have had a beautiful, well, a little meadow of wildflowers, but the bunnies like it way more. And I couldn't, it didn't happen. And they got planted, everything got planted on the plan precisely. The rabbits were just awful, no matter what I did. And so last year, Virginia Scharfenberg stated to try to find some mountain mint, which was hard to find, but I found it, and I found about maybe 5 or 6 plantings of it. That turned out to be the most beauteous thing, because when they call it the queen of pollinators, they're not kidding. It immediately took hold. The rabbits absolutely don't want to be near it. So that's
And
really
what
going to
was-
be my
called it?
mountain mint.
Mountain mint.
Mountain mint.
Okay,
It's
yellow mountain mint,
wonderful.
okay, yeah.
It's
All right.
wonderful. And that's really only going to probably be my only flowering thing, but I have to tell you, it was a bee buzz of activity immediately, within a week of getting it in the ground. And they've grown enormously. I'm probably, by next season, I can split them and plop them around. And then the bare spots that I intentionally hoed out with a scuttle hoe, trying to get the knotweed out. It really was sort of barren, but I'll plant those with the plugs of seagrass. But I know I can't plant that until they're in a dormant stage, so that'll probably happen at the end of October, early part of November, and I'll
Yeah,
just.
I mean, later,
I get a bundle of it, but I have to provide you folks with a picture of it, and it'll really just it'll look like a guy with bad hair transplants until we get to the next, because I have a whole, berm that is beautiful. It's wonderful. So I don't think that'll be a problem. I think that should winter well. And then if the commission is satisfied with that, I'm very happy to do that, finish it up, and be a good steward to the environment.
Yeah,
As I had tried to do in the beginning.
Yeah, I
but
think it'll look
it was
very
a
very
folly.
nice that way.
But that's.
With the
I'm-
beach grass, you can, I mean, the later you wait, probably the better off you'll be anyhow.
Yeah, when I got it before, I planted 1,000 sticks of it. And I was in a jacket, I was cold
Yeah.
planting it. I want to say virtually 90% of it took hold.
Yeah,
And so that's not a problem, and I'm sure that will be the case.
yeah.
And then and Tyler has convinced me, and I think it's justified, to have one more full treatment of the knotweed.
Yeah,
And
I
I have to
think so.
sit on my hands this summer and watch it grow to a flowering state. And he'll come back in the
Yeah.
in the late fall and do the injection with that. And I also have a patch along the driveway. I'll just let it get big.
Yeah, I
And-
know it's difficult to do,
Oh,
to
it's
watch it,
awful.
but it's, let it come to flower and then call him and
And then
he'll,
he said he'll come back and do that. And then he also wanted to do, I think, more treatment on the Phragmites. So it looks like a whole bunch is gone already. I'm not sure if the town did something on the edge.
no, I think you're,
Maybe it's just finally dying.
yeah.
It's probably just finally dying then. Okay, and it takes probably a few years.
Yeah, I think, I mean, it's a long-term process
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
completely control, but
Okay,
I think maybe you'll be starting to see a little bit right now, and it should get better and better and progressively,
okay,
so.
okay. And, and I'm hopefully within a year, I'll be a full-time resident in the home, so I'll have a better handle on everything, and I won't do anything without calling you folks. I promise to God. I promise to God. I will not.
You've
ever.
learned, right?
Oh, you have no idea. It's the most expensive mistake I ever made in my entire lifetime.
You're not the first, and unfortunately, you won't be the last either, but,
And there was nothing nefarious behind it, but I have to own up to it. I did what I did. But, so, I thank you.
okay,
Okay?
very
And
good.
I shall plant away when the time is right.
Okay, very good.
Thank you so much. I
All
appreciate
right,
it.
thank you. Any questions from the board? All right, would somebody like to make a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for SE 83-2291-310 South Shore Drive with the special conditions listed?
So moved.
All those, oh, sorry, a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Excuse me, I just
Carried
had one more
unanimously.
question.
Sure.
With this 3-year time frame having finished, is there any more, I mean, am I observed on, in any, like forever and a day?
Yeah, I mean, do we do any more follow-up
Like site visits or
inspections?
anything?
No, at this point, we won't have to do that. We will, well, they probably will want to see the beach grass plugs, so
I'll
if you
furnish
send a
with that.
picture
I
of
have-
that.
Yeah, by November 15th.
And if there's a question, then we'll just, we would contact
Okay.
you then
Yeah,
if there
I'll
was
plan to
any
get it
concern.
planted probably end of October, probably the first weekend in November. I'm sure that's when I did it the last time.
Okay,
Because it was really, it's brittle at that point, and it's much easier to stick in the ground.
yeah, and then these special conditions will get attached to the certificate of compliance, so it'll allow you to do that work.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you so
Great.
much. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
Bob Perry. Don't forget your board.
All right, we have two easy certificates. We have SE 83-2286 for 35 Merchant Avenue and SE 83-1169, 165 Mayflower Terrace. Both are easy. Do I have a motion to issue the certificates of compliance for SE 83-2286 and SE 83-1169?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. All right, moving on, we're into enforcement. Our first. Oh, thank you. That would help, wouldn't it?
Good thing I'm here.
That's why you get paid the big bucks.
That's what you're here for.
So important.
He's getting paid.
Take over the chairmanship anytime you want. So.
No way.
Yes, we going to.
They doubled his pay, twice nothing is still nothing.
Merchant. Mayflower. All right, now we are moving on to our enforcement. Our first enforcement matter is Juarez Mores. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. It's 60 Jefferson Avenue. It's an unpermitted vegetation removal within the riverfront area and buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. Finn, do you have any background on any of this first?
Yeah, so this was an unpermitted tree and vegetation removal by the new owners in January. The conservation administrator met on site with them in January and discussed the violation. Restoration was required within the 35-foot buffer zone, and a plan was needed by March 1st for the planting before May 31st. Details were emailed to the owner. There was no response to follow-ups in March, so a draft enforcement order was sent on May 14th that required a restoration plan be submitted immediately by May 31st and to attend the meeting on June 6th.
Okay, and we did receive the plan as well, right, from Crawford? Okay,
Is that the one we received late? We just received it? That the one we just received a couple days ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
there was an issue apparently observed. There's a sump pump that's out on,
yeah.
on the property and releasing water. And I don't have an issue with the sump pump itself. Groundwater is usually considered that's what sump pumps do. They get rid of groundwater. So it's assumed that there's no impact that way. But there is an issue in terms of erosion where the pipe is discharging the water.
Yes.
So I would think I would ask that you do something to take care of that erosion. So either adding some, either some sort of a fiber mat or coir log or something like that that would go underneath the pipe in that gully area. So it keeps the ground from eroding, and the water essentially runs through that coir material.
It goes down into the stream.
Goes down in the stream.
Down into the stream.
Yeah, it's to prevent the pipe would discharge on top of the coir log or the coir mat, and so it would keep the water would no longer erode the soil, and again, it still goes into the stream, but again, it doesn't smell, it's not discolored. You normally associate it then with groundwater, to some pump removing groundwater. Anybody have any other comments, questions on any of that?
So I just want to be clear, it's okay that it goes into the stream eventually? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, unless you have honest belief that it's carrying some sort of contaminant, but you would normally see.
Possibly could, but we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you would normally see, discoloration to the soil or the water, or you would have bad smells, that sort of thing.
So what would they do, place a coir log all the way down that rut?
Basically, you could, I don't know if I'd do a log, but you maybe do like a coir mat. There's a fiber mats that you can use, anything that you could put down there so that the water will run over it, but it doesn't take the soil with it, so.
Yeah. What about a little excavation filled with crushed stone?
I'd rather, because now you're adding hardscape into the resource area where all you have to do is keep the.
Well, they have to fill in the rut first and then put the mat over it, or leave the rut, because it was pretty deep. It was a good, at least 6 to 9 inches in places.
I don't know if I would try and see if you could just do it with the mat alone without crushed stone
Well,
first.
I'm talking about filling in the gully and then put the mat on top of it, correct?
I wouldn't do it.
But the pipe is not at the surface, right? It's a little bit below it, right?
It's pretty, if you look at the picture, it's pretty
You,
much at the surface. The drainage is.
Oh, it's right at, is that right at the surface?
Yeah.
And it's very active.
Yeah.
We saw it
It's
go
like
up
Old Faithful.
3 times while I was standing there.
Once we're able to get
House, I guess.
some vegetative ground cover established around it, it should stabilize everything. But until then, if we dug in just one of those straw wattles to spread the water out horizontally, so it's not just concentrated in the one channel, I would think that would do it. Especially going into the summer where the sump pump, in theory, shouldn't be running too much.
But it would require constant maintenance.
Well, once it's vegetated, that should dissipate a lot of the water shouldn't really be able to build up too much speed, and it won't be bare soils.
But if you don't keep an eye on it, it'll spread and bigger erosion.
Right. Well, I think part of the enforcement is maintenance and monitoring.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think you can do it. You just have to, like I said, you have to
even like
at least say, give it a couple years of monitoring, and if it continues to be a problem, so we can revise the enforcement order to require them to address the erosion issue at the sump pump, and then require also that they monitor for the next 3 years while they're reestablishing some vegetation over it. And if it continues to be a problem, then we'll have to come back and address it with a slightly more engineering. But for at least for now, I think if you essentially fill it with coir, allow some vegetation to grow over it. It should be able to work that way. At least I'm willing to give it a try, give it a try that way first. But I would ask for like 3 years of monitoring
Where's the water coming from?
from the basement.
Basement, and so you're pumping groundwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard discussions about that kind of thing and the futility of it, but
Out of the ground, back
It's
in
better
the
than the
ground.
alternatives. The alternative is to have a swimming pool in your basement.
yeah,
but-
exactly.
So,
I mean, even just like a gutter or a downspout diffuser that spreads it over like an area this wide instead of just coming out of one pipe.
yeah, I mean, this really is not that bad. I mean, I've seen at least two, one particularly bad one where it had three pumps. The person decided to try and put a full basement on the north side of a particular town here on the Mid-Cape area that had groundwater at about 3 feet. And when they punched through it, the basement filled and
Indoor pool.
it was essentially an indoor pool that was creating all sorts of humidity problems and causing mold and everything else throughout the rest of the house. And they ended up having three sump pumps that ran continuously, 24 hours a day. And it did it for 3 years before they realized they had to fill in the basement. So,
Well, the only, the one concern of mine in the long run would be if the water coming out of there changes for some reason, and keeping an eye on that. And I wouldn't think that's gonna happen, but it's still, for whatever reason, neighbors, well, I think the other approach is if we come back, you're gonna be looking at something like maybe a rain garden and with a tank, and then you're gonna end up with still runoff over that some of the time. So, simple solution for the moment.
yeah, I think we should try that first before we start over-engineering things, so. Any questions from us? Any other questions from the board? And anything? All right, so then we just need to revise the, because that's right, the other issue that we still need to do planting, right?
Well, the planting has to occur, yeah.
So the planting is probably not going to get done in the spring at this point.
Rob, I can't say one way or the other for sure. I'd have to take a look at our schedule and just make sure that we could fit it in while time is still approcappropriate. And if we couldn't, it would be in the fall.
Yeah, so I think what we need
We
to do
could
is
still
just
seed
revise
it,
the
though.
dates. Yeah, we'll revise the deadline dates to, it would be October 31st. You don't have to wait until that, you don't have to
Right.
wait until October. Whenever the planting, the weather conditions are appropriate for you to plant, you can do that.
Okay.
But we'll put the deadline of October 31st regardless then. And addressing the sump pump erosion. So did somebody somebody like to make a motion to approve the revised enforcement order?
I will.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Which one of you would like to take it? Ellie?
can have it.
Right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Decide, right?
Did she, oh yeah, she did give us the.
They certainly have grown. Yeah, I see a lot of their signs around.
All right, so don't forget,
Print?
write and print. You have to print your name too, okay?
Really?
All right, next order of business, another enforcement matter for Matthew Riles Trust, 18 Kearsarge Road, unpermitted construction of a patio within the riverfront area, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and the buffer zones to a coastal bank and salt marsh. Finn, what have you for us on this one?
So this was an unpermitted patio constructed by the previous owner, and then
Smokes, that is some patio.
the new owner resurfaced it, which caught the conservation administrator's attention. And she visited the site and issued a draft enforcement order for the unpermitted patio with conditions to remove it or seek permitting for a notice intent by August 1st, and the homeowner intends to file a notice of intent.
And I didn't catch it, but I assume it is a permittable. How far are we? Holy smokes, that's, oh, thank you, Bob.
We'll share.
Thanks.
Have your own. Make it not share, but just in case.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right.
Would you like to hear a little bit about it? I'm Bob
You
Perry.
give us a little bit about it, Bob?
I received a phone call because I did, about 23 years ago, design and permit the dock at this property. And I think 3 years ago, maybe 4, we did a certificate of compliance. So I had been to the property in that time frame. So I accepted this job. And as Finn said, there was a patio formation here, and it was in the course of performing other work that I believe was authorized, there was disturbance. And the contractor purportedly reconstructed a patio, as you see, in an area where there was a patio, perhaps not as large, but had collateral ground disturbance surrounding it. So that's what you see here. The plan that I provided to you there is really it's a dimensioned plot at 20 scale that shows that we have a lawn area clearly visible in the photo, and the 35-foot buffer, which you'd have to tell me is the applicable buffer here. We're just hem-stitching it with the stair location. It was difficult to find the break and slope in those shrubs. There's a collection of coastal hardy vegetation there, rugosa rose, and then there's a stone revetment. So because the land is so flat, we don't have a coastal bank closer to the building. We have a flood zone here, which is AE elevation 11. So the applicant, of course, wants to do the right thing. And if a notice of intent is the proper vehicle to see a permit review for this, then that's what he'll do. By the way, this is Matt Riles, the owner. I meant to introduce him earlier. And I know that the work could be done, if there was remaining work to do, it might be done through an enforcement order where mitigation could be planted, but that's not my call. This work is done, there's lawn there was lawn there, but I know that if the committee's seeking mitigation for this, it looks like a project that could be mitigated. If it had been proposed initially, it'd probably be mostly approved. And there's a great opportunity to do some planning here along the boundary of that revetment. So, interestingly, although it doesn't jibe with the Yarmouth regs, if you're 50 feet from a wetland boundary or a bank and you're in lawn, DEP doesn't require the filing of a notice of intent. They consider it a minor project. But we're at the 35-foot line, and we have to take the direction of the committee. But I know there's two options. If there's no work left to do except for planting, it might be handled through an enforcement action.
And you said there was a patio there previously, right?
I don't have information on it. All I know is what I've been told, and that the account that was just read into the record was that there was some form of patio here that was rebuilt more formally.
When was this put in? When was the new patio put in?
This was just done. It, like, just finished when
Last
we did
week.
all the construction.
Okay, so we probably have aerial photos that where we could sort of figure out what
Yeah,
was
the-
there before, right?
Well, you've got 23, 20, there's 24, Google does 24, which, it's fuzzy. I'm surprised at the quality of the photography for 24.
Try near map.
What's it?
Near map is as far superior.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
And 2021 didn't show anything that I could make out.
Okay, I will try and look at using a near map as well. I mean, normally we would, so the
This the Google Earth I just pulled up doesn't show a patio there at all.
He's got it right
What
now.
year? What year, Ian?
Oh, that I don't know.
Because like I said, 2021, I didn't see one.
Well, he's got it right up.
That's it right there, right?
that's it
There.
right there.
Is that a patio? I can't tell.
Go back one, Finn, please.
So that's 2021.
So I think they've moved, I think the patio moved too. I think it was a very small section right more toward the center of the house, right? And then all of a sudden it,
What date is that? Oh, 2023, yeah, okay, so that is, we'd have to scale that, but I think it was clearly enlarged.
yeah, I mean, you're not gonna get a lot of benefit in what was there compared to what is there now. So, and I think the other concern is gonna be the fact that we normally hold the line viciously on 35 feet. But at the same time, realizing it was not you who did the work, I would be,
Sure about that?
I thought he just said he finished construction
No,
just
I-
recently.
no, the
The new
footprint was there.
Yes,
The new piece.
the new piece I did. Like,
Right.
I
Right.
hired a guy to do it.
Okay, well, how recently?
Just
He
recently.
just did it, he just finished it. Like, I still have the
Sweet.
permit, I still have the permits in the window for all of the
So he
construction
finished
we
it
did.
this week.
That work was ongoing, I think, when the enforcement order was issued.
Right. Brittany said he was just putting in the last piece when she went down there for the enforcement.
The
Right.
previous owner had put in the large patio footprint first.
But I think
And
you
then they-
you enlarged it a little bit, right?
They repaved.
So what happened was when they did the construction on the deck, they made them pull the footings. So when he pulled all the footings, it was all torn up. Miscommunication, he just thought that was all of the spot that it was supposed to be. Like I said, if it needs to be cut back, I have no problem cutting it back. I'll pull the guy back and have him cut it back.
I'll say you.
It's a new notice of intent.
Just that piece.
I think it's just that piece. Right?
Do you want them to pull it back out of the 35 foot?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There's plenty of room for mitigation, though, on that property. A nice mitigation.
But as you said, we hold 35
Are
feet.
we talking just about that
Yeah, it's
tiny
just this
piece
little
there?
corner.
That's corner? What,
I'm with you, Pat, but at the same time, we do hold the 35 feet as the be all end all.
are we talking about this?
Can you show the present one again?
Plan
You're gonna
for the-
cut-
Pleasant,
I don't
no,
know.
what- the photograph, the better one, I think, yeah.
I have a question about this. If we were
There you go.
pulling it back to be consistent with the 35-foot setback, seeing how it was constructed in a disturbed area, but also something that might have otherwise been this lawn, would you be seeking mitigation
You would have to do mitigation regardless.
regardless? Okay.
Yeah, because obviously lawn would be better than any hardscape.
Oh, I don't know. It's sometimes debatable about the fertilizers and the chemicals that people often put on lawns, but pave the world and think that argument holds.
If we will agree to
Taking that.
disagree.
Okay.
But, I think this is a manageable project if you cut that corner back to the 35 foot and mitigate for the square footage, up along the revetment and, coastal bank, work your way fill it in from the back there.
1-to-1?
I could see it, I could see us doing it, but I'd rather do it as a restoration order than a notice of intent.
Bob, individual pavers in the top of the deck?
They are. They're dry laid. It's all dry laid.
Are they talking just that corner where the stairs are? You're gonna take that off?
That's going to get it back to the 35, right?
Within the 35, yeah.
Yeah, within 35.
But it's laid stone, right?
And then he's still gonna have to have stairs to get off that.
The stairs would be translated if we have to do that. It is not mortared.
Okay.
Yeah, so just
So it's relatively
Straightforward.
assemble it, basically.
It's doable.
Take those big
If we
stones
couldn't
off.
mitigate for it, and it's a policy rule, then it's doable. And you heard Matt say it.
Yeah, so you can cut it at the 35 foot, and then mitigate for the rest of the hardscape.
So a landscape plan could certainly be provided to reflect the restorative work. If that's a way to go, I mean, he is in a predicament, and it saves some cost. I don't know that it's the kind of thing that deserves to be punitive, but there are benefits that are going to come out of it for the environment, because you're going to mitigate along the coastal bank.
Right.
And it can be done faster if we do it through the enforcement method.
Yeah, I would prefer to do it that way. That makes a variety of reasons that it makes more sense to do it that way. So a landscape plan showing the cutoff corner and the appropriate mitigation for the, up by the coastal bank. How much time do you need?
Probably a couple of weeks. We have approximate 900 square foot stone surface, but it's dry laid, so it is, you could say, semi-pervious. There's a kind of a gravel stone bed around the perimeter, which allows for runoff to infiltrate. So it's pretty well designed. What would you be seeking, 1-to-1?
Not in the 50 foot. What is it? It's 2-to-1, right?
2-to-1.
Yeah.
2-to-1?
It's going to cost.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's going to cost a lot of that grass, but.
But would that be for what is within 50 feet? Because we have a 30-foot deep, so we've got about 2/3 of that is in the 50.
So in the 35 to 50, it's 2-to-1. In the 50, correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because I'm still trying to remember. But in the 50 to 100, it's 1-to-1.
Okay, so we have a calculation to do. All right.
Yeah. So do your calculations. Put the calculations
Okay,
up, the
yeah.
calculation table on the.
Oh, it's
on the
lawn
landscape.
area today, and it was a patio before. I mean, are we allowed to deduct anything?
I'm
that
not
we have
seeing a
for
lot of
credit?
patio there, to be honest with you.
That
little
formation
chunk.
below 18 Kears, well, right. in-
That little chunk is still there, so.
I
right?
see.
That's just
Okay,
the
so-
porch.
Is it
so
still there,
you're
that
saying
porch?
because it showed up after 2021, it's not permitted? That's
Right.
I mean, I would be glad to look at near map for you tomorrow if you just want to give me a call.
I don't think we have an old patio formation there. I think if anything, we've got something that might have showed up in the last 3 or 4 years.
I mean, if there was a patio there in the last 7 or 8 years,
I don't think so.
near map will tell you exactly how much and
What's wrong
how
with
big it
this?
was.
Appreciate you looking at
Pictures
that. I have
he
a
just
feeling we know what you're going to find.
Does it make a
His
difference
pictures.
if it wasn't permitted, it was an unpermitted patio?
Well, that's what I'm saying, the mitigation that he's going to install is.
We're on the order of
Here is that.
1,500 square feet.
This is 2021.
That's 21,
Yep. And then this one's 23.
so that kind of shows 2 years,
It was somewhere in that range, yeah.
not 7 years.
But not Mr. Riles, but
No.
No, that was the
No.
previous.
Yeah, but unfortunately, again,
I understand.
the violation travels with the deed, just like everything else,
Well, we'll do the calculation and figure out what we've got to do, and it sounds like it's the order of 1,500 square feet or so that might be a thick buffer that forms up against that stone revetment, which isn't a bad thing to have next to a stone
Yeah,
revetment.
no, I think it'll work out. I think it'll be nice for everybody involved in the long run, so. Okay.
So you want to continue for 2 weeks,
We can continue it.
or just engage with staff?
We'll ratify the enforcement with those conditions, Finn, that we just discussed. And so we'll say 2 weeks from now for the landscape
To
plan.
submit a plan for the planting.
And then we can provide a set of enforcement conditions list as well. It's like a set of conditions for you
They
to put
report back
everything.
at some point after survival period.
And then, yeah, and we'll put it, do like a month to give it a month to cut the corner. And then I would just put a longer, like a fall date for the planting, because frankly, you're not gonna be able to
Summer.
get everything done.
Okay.
And done in.
If he chose to have the stone done sooner, would that be
Oh, yeah,
objectionable?
no, but, yeah, just, we'll give you a month, but if you can get it done earlier, that would
So
be better.
he could come and cut it tomorrow.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great.
Just make sure you know exactly where the 35 foot is, because we don't want to come back.
More than less.
Yeah, we don't want to come back and have to do it again.
Yep.
All right?
It's pretty solid. We got a good handle on that. A little hard to see it in the brush, but if it wasn't so wet today, I would have been more into that brush.
Yeah,
But I will pinpoint it.
I was right there. I had four site visits myself today, Bob, and I was not a happy camper by the end of them, so.
More power to you for doing it, and,
I have to
well,
say, the stoneworker did beautiful work on that.
Thank you.
I thought so too.
I'm gonna hire him.
Well, we'll be changing it a little, so we'll pursue that. Maybe you're gonna vote on that now?
Okay, and we'll do a 3 years of monitoring after the plants have been in for a year, 3 years of monitoring.
Okay.
Okay. Would somebody like to make a motion to issue the enforcement order?
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Okay.
Well,
Good. Not really here today.
We don't care.
it was moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
You all said aye. That sounded a lot like my frog pond, where it all came up, you know, like, aye. Thank you for your time. Good night.
Okay, thanks, Bob.
It's dinner time, that's why.
All right, moving on to other business, I'm going to table the meeting minutes of May 16th to next time. Finn is going to do a couple of minor corrections. And I am here to remind you that there is no meeting on July 4th, 2024. However, there is a meeting in 2 weeks' time on June 20th, so you do not have a month off between now and then. Any other business not reasonably anticipated by said chairman?
Nope.
If not, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
We stand adjourned at 6:58 PM.